Achievement diaries, a set of tasks with different activities for the players to complete. Spread across multiple regions and with 4 tiers each, they have been part of the game for a long time. They are very sought after due to their rewards and shiny cape, so today, let's take a look into them. Released in 2015 for Old School RuneScape and in 2007 onwards for RuneScape 3, they are a set of unique tasks spread across 4 tiers of difficulty ranging from easy to elite. These are further spread across different regions with their own unique rewards. Overall, they serve as a way for Jagex to incentivize players to engage with pieces of content in a specific region. They feature a lot of exploration, require quests and skill levels, and are what can be described as a best of in terms of activities and resources you can find in an area, as well as shining a light to those activities players wouldn't even know existed sometimes. Tasks can be divided in a couple of categories. Exploration. Usually these tasks require you to go and do something in an area. Examples of these include speaking with an NPC such as ants to find out your age, or to find a specific place such as a dungeon. Discovery. These tasks are usually about a specific obscure mechanic. Examples include selling silk to the silk merchant or trapping a monkey. Skill challenges. Usually these tasks are focused on the skilling resources you can obtain in a specific area. Examples of these include crafting a certain type of rune or fishing a type of fish. Combat challenges. These tasks tend to focus on the PvM content an area has. Examples of these include killing a specific NPC like a certain Slayer monster. It can be a zombie or the Calfight Queen. Progress. These tasks mostly involve quests and upgrades that move your account along. Examples of these would be to complete the fight caves for the fire cape, or to get an Ava's device. Obviously, every task moves your account along, but these tasks are specific items or unlocks you could have missed otherwise. These are the 5 major categories I would give tasks. However, and not surprisingly, the more complex a task gets, the more categories that task can be inserted in. For example, making a rune crossbow from scratch will inevitably require a high skill level, and therefore could be viewed as a skill challenge. However, since you have to make it from scratch in a specific area, you are encouraged to explore the area for the ways to do so, meaning that this task could fit both skill challenge and exploration categories. Another example of this is to smith an adamant plate body in the Lumbridge sewer anvil. While it is a skill challenge, you are encouraged to explore where the sewers are and potentially learning of where an anvil is when otherwise you simply wouldn't have, given that the sewers can be easily missed. Obviously, not every category is as important as others if the objective of tasks is to encourage exploration and shine a light on the good and sometimes obscure content a region has. Any task that doesn't do that isn't gonna achieve its main goal. For the most part, tasks do end up being good. Some of them, however, I would have to disagree. Usually, tasks relating to skill challenges and combat challenges tend to not be as good simply due to the fact that it's easy to get lazy with them. While they can still encourage players to explore, some of them really don't. Tasks can be all over the place, quite frankly, which is counterproductive to what you want to achieve, making the entire achievement experience up and down in terms of enjoyment. So, let me give you some bad examples of tasks that really don't encourage much exploration and could be substituted by others. In no way is this an exhaustive list, just giving some examples to illustrate my point. Steal from a hero. A Ardoin elite task. When you are doing thieving, you know that any NPC that has the pickpocket option will be able to be pickpocketed regardless if it's for thieving XP or for a quest. Therefore, this task really teaches nothing new to the player. You could argue that players would have to explore to find out where heroes are, but being an elite task, by the point that the player has already been to Ardoin and very likely knows where they are, given that they aren't particularly hard to find. They usually just roam around the East Ardoin market, which is a very common place for players to go through their entire lifespans of their account. Achieve level 5 in all 4 Barbarian Assault roles. This is also an elite task. This task is actually super counterproductive since after finding out about the minigame, you will likely want a torso, given that it's a useful piece of gear for combat and required in a clue scroll. This task tells you to not spend points on that and instead spend points leveling up rolls. To make matters worse, there is already a hard task that also requires Barbarian Assault in the form of getting a granite plate body. So you already know that the minigame exists, you already know how to play it, you get discouraged to spend points on actual useful rewards, and on top of that, players are very likely to never play the minigame again after the task, meaning that the task feels like a grind that never really pays off. Perform the quest Cape emote at the Wise Old Man house. Another elite task, this time from Lambridge. This task is particularly egregious for two reasons. Aside the fact that you don't really learn much in terms of places or mechanics, since again, these are things that at this point a player would already know, if you don't perform the emote right as you obtain the cape, you might forget, which means that the task doesn't get completed. Fun fact, this actually happened to me given that I performed the emote outside of his house. With quests coming into the game, that means you will need to get the cape back to get the task done, which is a big chore. On top of that, newer players simply get punished by having to complete more quests to get the cape and get the task done for the exact same rewards. This was going to be addressed, however many players voted it down for some reason. This task is nothing but a grind, and an even bigger grind if you are just getting into the game at the cost of learning nothing from it. And I have even more examples, but I think that these three showcase the problems certain tasks can have, where they require a lot of work put into them and in exchange you do no exploration, no discovery, learn nothing new, and there isn't any piece of content that gets highlighted. So now, let's take a look at three tasks I think are well done instead, so we can actually see the difference of what they achieve. A task I really love is Walkies. Essentially, this task requires you to go to Kern Island in Karanja, grab a chameleon egg, incubate it in a pet store, and then take it to the island. The incubated chameleon actually works as a follower pet, which was introduced in 2008 with the release of Summoning. Yep, the first pets in the game came with Summoning, and this achievement does a pretty good job at not only teaching you that fact, but also showing you that you can still get them as pets. While the pet interface has changed a lot throughout the years, this mechanic still works to this day. Build a prayer altar in your starting room. This is a Demonheim task where you have to recharge your prayer points at an altar you built in Demonheim. Did you know I could build altars in Demonheim? Me neither, until I had to do this task. In fact, you can actually change your portal to a bunch of different utilities using construction. Purchase and equip a granite plate body from Barbarian Assault. As I alluded to earlier, this task does the job of telling you about Barbarian Assault, makes you complete an entire game, all 10 waves since you need the Queen kill to unlock the ability to purchase it, and you get a reward for it. This task does get a bit undermined by a task on the tier below it, since there is a task to complete a single Barbarian Assault wave. This might be the reason why, players keep living on wave 2 of the minigame, so maybe the task should also be reworked, since this one already does a pretty good job at showing people the minigame. All of these tasks have a common through line. They all teach you something about the game, a mechanic, a place, or a minigame you probably would have missed and didn't know it existed. They all allow you to understand the game to a deeper degree and have more knowledge about it. They don't suffer from the grind and are overall the types of tasks you want to have. They all require a pretty high skill level, but the tasks themselves aren't exactly a huge grind, so you can have a skill challenge type task that allows exploration and discovery. So, tasks that encourage exploration, discovery and progression are good. Tasks that encourage grind, are a repeat of previous content and don't give you any knowledge, are bad. That is the summary of what makes a task good versus what makes a task bad. Just to end this section, it can be pretty hard to balance the difficulty of a task without making it a chore, but the different tiers of tasks are actually a huge part of the diaries. They can serve as a guide to the content that the region possesses, be it early game, mid game, or even late game. This is why tasks should be more focused on exploration rather than just be repeats of things you already know, as it is easy to miss content in the region. With every tier of difficulty comes a reward. Each tier and region has specific rewards that affect the region, and some rewards even affect the entire game. This reward space is actually often used to give players things that can be seen as more miscellaneous, such as the Bone Crusher, the Ash Sanctifier, extra teleports to the regions, and active or passive buffs to the region itself, such as noted items at the Tower of Life. The rewards and their importance is spread nicely throughout the difficulty required to complete it. Elite diaries usually have unlimited teleports, while easier diaries only have limited daily teleports. Elite diaries tend to have higher buff effects than easier diaries. This is to balance the challenge versus reward aspect of the diaries. Overall, the rewards are and should be focused on navigation and activities in the region, which is exactly what most do. We have agility shortcuts, teleports, buff to activities such as not needing water skins with the Desert Amulet 4, or the Caranged Dragons dropping noted bars. However, some rewards are actually wrongly balanced given the tiers they are inserted in. For example, while it's fairly easy to complete the easy Ardoin diary, one of the rewards is unlimited teleports to the Ardoin Monastery. This is not verified in any other achievement diary, as most unlimited teleports are placed on either the Art tier or the Elite tier. RuneScape 3 follows this example with the exceptions of Wilderness and Turnwind, which do include unlimited teleports. The Wilderness Sword one teleports you to Edgeville, where the lodestone is, so I'm not exactly gonna count it since, it doesn't make much of a difference, and Turnwind does require already a decent skill level to do. Exceptions aside, the vast majority of teleports are, again, mostly on the Arth or Elite tier. To make matters worse, some simple shortcuts that save at most less than a minute require the Arth or Elite tiers completed to be usable, such as the Trollheim shortcut or the Taverley Dungeon Pipe shortcut. Some agility shortcuts could be made available in tiers above, given their fairly small upgrade. Lastly, some rewards seem very toned down and almost useless. Like, for example, you can get free pure essence from the wizard in Ardoin, and even with the Elite diary completed, you only get 250 pure essence maximum per day. Another example are the buckets of sand. You get a grand total of 84 per day with the Elite diary. Some rewards are definitely on the side of OP, while others are on the side of useless. Again, not that every reward is bad, and not that diary rewards should be super overpowered, but maybe them being a bit more rebalanced to make them overall more useful would be great. We already saw an initiative in this regard. The Kandarin diaries used to give you free flax per day if you talked with an NPC. Given the flax now is actually worth 1 GP, Jagex changed it so the NPC is able to swap flax with bowstring. It's still not amazing by any means, but it is far more useful than the 120 flax you would get daily. To cap off this section, there is also a problem with the balancing between regions. While with the easy wilderness diaries you get 3 rewards, them being always being able to slash the webs that you find in the wilderness with the sword, being able to switch the lever to teleport you to either Ardoin or Edgeville, and 40 random runes from Lundale every day. With the Falador diaries, you get only 2, being able to restore 25% of your prayer points with a shield and a shortcut. So not only do you get 1 less reward, their usefulness is wildly different. After all the tiers are completed, this does get a bit better, but still, some regions are somewhat lacking in rewards and how useful they are when compared to others. Lastly, I want to touch on how the diaries are laid out and weigh the pros and cons. Under the current structure, you have 4 tiers of diaries, spread across multiple regions. Once you complete all the tasks in tier 1, you can claim the rewards for that tier and you get to keep them. There is never a worry about re-obtaining them since new tasks never come out. The pros of this structure are simple. You do the tasks, claim the rewards, and keep them. The cons are that, oftentimes, a lot of the tasks feel very outdated. Since you never get new tasks for the content that does come out, there is never a task for it. Obviously, not every piece of content needs a task, but some of them definitely do, and they don't have them because, with the current system, we just don't add them. We could take a look at 2 other systems that could address the issue with feeling outdated, so I came up with 2: batches and groups. As far as batches go, you could go through the years and create a batch for multiple years. So let's say that you have Achievement Diaries Batch 1, that goes from 2001 to 2011. Essentially every task there is for content that came out around those years. You give people appropriate rewards. Then you have batch 2 from 2011 to 2021, and then batch 3 from 2021 to 2031, and so on. The positives of this structure is that you will never have to worry about outdated tasks, since any new content you introduce will be considered app for tasks when a batch gets made, so no newer content gets forgotten because we keep making new tasks. On top of that, you preserve the importance of players keeping their rewards. They do batch 1, they never have to worry about those tasks or rewards again. The downsides, on the other hand, are primarily decluttering. While it will be nice to have when we only have 1 or 2 batches, the moment you start going to 6, 5, 7, you'll just start getting so many tasks. This can make players feel desensitized to the tasks and diaries, as well as it being an absolute nightmare to deal with when content gets changed or removed, where you need to then track if there is any task relating to it. And considering RuneScape 3's UI, including the fact that area tasks, despite having far stronger rewards, are just sort of mixed together with the rest of the achievements, which, okay, I'll concede that some titles and achievements do increase stats, but still, the cluttering, UI-wise, would get even worse and more confusing for the players under this new structure. Groups, on the other hand, would be more focused on the regions themselves. As opposed to being entire systems on its own, it would instead be an individualized region-by-region basis in terms of tasks and rewards. The positives of this structure is that, since they are individualized, it's easier to balance the rewards, add or change rewards, or add or change tasks. Instead of having a massive batch with new tasks every X years, Jagex could simply introduce 2 or 3 new ones to some places with pieces of content that needed attention. With the individualized structure of the grouping system, it would also be easier to rebalance the requirements for some rewards by making them points based, for example, so you can take a more diversified approach when doing the tasks and trying to gain those rewards. The downsides are that the system would again run the risk of being cluttered. Another massive issue would be the taking away of rewards, especially the most OP tier, the elite tier. Players don't like it when the rewards get taken away, even with things that make sense, such as the comp cape, which Jagex ended up compromising by creating a grace period. The same situation occurs with old school's RuneScape combat achievements. Diaries would also feel less important as a whole and more of a unlock you need to grind for in order to get the new shiny rewards, which is somewhat counterproductive to what diaries are. Right now, diaries simply feel like a side goal, something that you can go for and you will be rewarded for it, but nothing so massive it's impossible to play the game without. So, should we change the structure of said diaries? Personally, I don't think so. All in all, Jagex does a pretty good job of using other means to bring attention to content they want you to pay attention to. While the Desert Diaries did not include Menaphos related tasks, since Menaphos wasn't in the game yet, Jagex did introduce a reputation system to still encourage you to go there and interact with the content. Also, from what I can recall, Jagex seems to prefer removing tasks altogether than changing them or adding new ones. This to me just says that they really prioritize the players keeping the rewards. I do wish diaries would get more attention, that they weren't so confusing to spot in RuneScape 3, since when I started playing the game I thought they had just removed them entirely. I wish that some tasks would, be substituted for others. I wish some of the rewards would be a bit better balanced, and overall that diaries would, impact more content, but these are things that can be slowly addressed over time. As it stands, whatever system you choose, you'll end up running against some wall, essentially just a pretty big downside. And with the current structure, that's the fact that a lot of content doesn't get highlighted because it doesn't have new tasks, meaning that the diary system sometimes can be seen as a bit outdated. But I'm fine with having that for now. Even being outdated, what is there still does a pretty good job at it.